Good afternoon and welcome to today's webinar, Finding Your Niche in Rental Housing, Supplier Edition. My name is Stephanie Hurst and I'm the Member Programs Manager here at the National Apartment Association. Thanks for joining us today. Before we get started, I do want to cover a few housekeeping points. This webinar is being recorded and will be available on NAA's YouTube channel by early next week. We will be giving questions to the panel today, so please drop those into the chat, and we'll share those with our panel. And now I will turn it over to Vanessa Grayson, who will be moderating today's session.
Hello, everyone. My name is Vanessa Grayson, and I'm a community manager with Avanti Residential based out of Kansas City, but we are all over. But I am super excited to have you here with us this afternoon to talk to an amazing group of supplier partners and just to hear their stories and their pathways and just kind of take you through their journey from where they began to where they are now and what that's entailed the entire time. A little bit about me. Again, I'm a community manager with Avanti Residential, and I've been in the industry for about 8 years and have had an opportunity to work with a multitude of suppliers. So I can tell you that this is just a really important conversation because we do not always share in this space with our supplier partners. And so I'm so excited to be a part of this conversation today, just shedding light on all the amazing things that they do for us on site as well. So obviously I know you're here for the panelists today, so I want to take an opportunity to introduce them to you. So really brief overview, we have Justin Frost, and Justin is the president of Affinity Waste Solutions. Joining us today, we have Catherine Gorman. She is the regional sales manager with BG. Joining us as well, we have Jay Lopman. He is associate vice president or assistant vice president of sales with InterSolutions?
Whatever you want to call me, I'm here.
Whatever I want. You're the greatest of all time if I'm going to give you a title, Jay.
Thank you.
And then also joining us as well, we have Maurice Williams. He's the VP of Operations for On Call Patrol. So I am going to actually let them tell you all about themselves with our very first question for the panel today. So why don't we just kind of go in order? Justin, we'll kick it off with you, but I would love for you to tell everyone a little bit about your pathway in the rental housing. Where did you start and where are you now?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And Vanessa, we appreciate you being on this also to make sure we, one, stay on task, stay on time, and make sure that everything works out on here on this call also. So my name is Justin Frost. I'm the president and founder of Affinity Waste Solutions. Affinity is actually coming up on our 10-year anniversary on October 14th this coming year. And let's just say God has moved mountains for the right people to take that right leap of faith in us, for us to become who we are today. I started in the multifamily industry on the management side. We won't call it the dark side too loud, but we'll just say the other side of the field. And I started out as on the maintenance side, became a regional maintenance director. And then, the company owners wanted to branch out a couple arms within their company. So they started a valet company internally and did that for right about 6 years, still running the maintenance direction and then also running their valet trash. They ended up selling it. And let's just say at that point, I was fortunate that my uncle, which was a retired Chief Master Sergeant in the United States Air Force, had approached me of coming out of retirement after being 2 years of retirement and looking for, his niche to do and sharing about the multifamily and the relationships and everything like that started forming. And I'll tell you, at that point was probably the changing point in my career, where something had happened in my life, and that's where a special girl came into my life. And I realized that I wanted more, I needed more, and that girl is my 11-year-old daughter now, Kenoyan. And I realized the things that I wanted to be able to give her at that point in my life, I was not going to be able to do so. So that is my why of, wanting more back then. Now there's 4 of them. Now there's 4 Kindles. I got 2 boys, 2 girls. So now you know why we need so much trash out there, because it takes a village with it. But it was a little bit of wake up point when a little girl goes in your arms, being, 7 pounds, 8 ounces, and you realizing that your whole world just changed. And So at that point, took a big leap and cashed in everything that I had. We even sold fireworks at 4th of July and New Year's and firework tents to make extra income to be able to get this company started 10 years ago. And here we are now having the opportunity to have 750 team members that allows this dream to become a reality. So with that said, I'm based out of Florida, and we participate in a lot of state, local associations, and very, very involved with the National Apartment Association. So Vanessa, back to you.
Thank you so much. And congratulations on your journey. That's
Yeah.
a huge success. And you actually have one of my favorite upcoming questions. So I feel like we're going to touch on it a little bit more. But until then, Miss Catherine, you were up. I have the very same question for you. Go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and where you started and where you are now.
Well, I always say that a lot of us did a backwards somersault into multifamily unknowingly. So I actually moved to Charlotte, North Carolina without a job. And I had a background in recruiting and sales, really wasn't thinking much of it. I was like, I'll figure it out. I'll get something quickly, no worries. And it was about a month. And Charlotte's a little different than Boston. So a little bit slower on the job front. And was approached by a property manager who said, "Hey, have you ever thought about leasing? I have an open position." I said, "Well, not really, but sure, it seems fun." I just went and looked at apartments for the very first time because in New England at that time, it was done very differently. And you worked with a broker and you paid first, last, and security deposit. And I had never seen a 3-bedroom apartment that was the same as my studio apartment and that I was paying the same amount for, with a pool and a fitness center and all of those crazy amenities. So I said, sure, this sounds really easy to sell. I started as a temporary leasing agent covering for someone who was on medical leave. So I did not know if I was going to have a job in multifamily after a 3-month period, but it all worked out swimmingly. And 13 years later, I decided that I was going to move to the supplier side. So had moved up as a regional manager, was most recently a regional for Greystar here in Charleston, South Carolina. And then beginning of 2021, I joined BG as the director of sales here in Charleston. Decided after a long time managing folks, I needed a little bit of a break and to be an individual contributor and to support my on-site teams in a very different way. So I spent 2 years in that role, and earlier this year moved into a regional sales manager position, overseeing what we call North Central, which is essentially the Midwest and Kansas City, St. Louis, and Memphis.
I love that for you. You'll have to come visit Kansas City and we can meet up for lunch.
Well, I was there last week for the trade show, so I'll reach out to you next time for sure.
Perfect.
So Catherine, is it the bright side?
Yes. We'll talk about that with the follow-up question. You've already heard my answer on our prep call.
All right, and now we will go to Jay Lopman.
Well, thanks, Vanessa. Thanks to my fellow panelists, and thanks to everybody for joining today. My name is Jay Lopman, and I'm really excited and really happy to be here. So I've been in the rental housing industry for over 25 years. Started with a little family-owned company here in San Diego, California by the name of Maintenance Warehouse, which soon became HD Supply. And I spent a lot of time there. I held positions in account management and marketing and in strategic accounts. I then made the transition into the staffing industry with BG Multifamily. And after a short stint away from BG, away from staffing, I went back to MRO for a little while. And then I am now back in staffing, where I'm the AVP of sales for Inner Solutions, property management staffing specialist. I'm also currently the immediate past chair of NAA's National Suppliers Council. Some say that being the immediate past chair is the best seat on the executive committee, and it has been great. But I'm also a board member at my local affiliate, the Southern California Rental Housing Association. So I am the poster child for drinking the industry volunteer Kool-Aid, and I love every bit of it, and I am so glad to be here. So thanks very much, Vanessa.
Absolutely. I'm so excited to be back on another platform with you. So
Yes.
It's so great to see you. Maurice, they say we save the best for last. So You have the very same question. Go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us all about your journey.
Hello, everybody. I am Maurice Williams. I am the VP of Operations for On Call Patrol. We are a patrol company that does parking management for apartment communities and HOAs. I started in this industry 19 years ago, would you believe it? 2004. I was approached by a friend of mine who was doing secretary work at an apartment community in Trenton, New Jersey. And she said, "Hey, there's a position open. I think you'd be great for it." At that time, I was working in a call center as a team lead, and was not thinking about doing anybody's property management. She kept on pushing, so I sent over my resume. Regional called me, did the interview. I accepted the position. Very small property. It was a 63 unit scattered property on different streets, and it was very interesting. But within 8 months, I got a promotion and was able to get my own lease up in North New Jersey. So I started that career as a property manager. I've held positions as a assistant regional and a area manager with the companies that I was with, and then moved over and transitioned into the supplier side. It really took some pulling. Betsy will tell you, I was not really ready to move from the property manager side, management side, because I just didn't know what to expect, right? And so Jessica Romero, who most people know, she was on the last panel. She was actually leaving BG and said, "Hey, listen, I think this would be a good position for you." And I was like, "I don't think that I would be doing that." My company that I was with at that time was selling their property, and they didn't really have anywhere for me to go. So I was kind of in limbo and had to make a decision quickly. So Betsy and a few other her colleagues at that time kind of, coached me into, really understanding what it would be to come over to the bright side. And I'm glad that I've done that. I've held positions with BG and Real Floors for a few months, and now I'm with On Call Patrol. I've been there for almost 5 years now. Started as their sales director, and now I'm the VP of operations for the company. Very excited about my journey. I'm very passionate about volunteerism. And I am actually the vice chair this year of the Product Service Council for FAA. I'm excited about that. Justin held that position as well for what, 2 years, right? No, for 2 years, right, Justin? I think it was 2 years, yeah. So I'm excited about what's to come, and that is me.
Well, welcome. It's so nice to meet you. And it's really cool for me just to see your all's journeys. And I'm telling you now, if one more person says it's the bright side, if I leave and join the bright side, I'm blaming all of you. All of you, all four of you right now.
Vanessa, you better call me first.
Well, Justin, since you are up here, our first question is actually for you. So you all have had an opportunity to talk just a little bit about your journeys, where you began and where you are at the moment. So Justin, first question being, if you could go back and change one thing from your career's journey, what would it be? And then why don't you go ahead and tell us why as well?
Oh, I wouldn't do it. No, if I could go back and change anything, because it's been a hard journey. It has not been easy. Listen to podcasts not long ago, and they said, "Hey, the greatest, the hardest, the greatest things in life might not be free, right? The easiest things in life do become free, but the hardest things are probably the most things that keep you humble. It keeps you grounded. Everything that you've got to work for, it shows you to have grace. And most importantly, bring people along to the top with you in life. It gets very lonely at the top by yourself. And having a mindset of, your teams, your employees, people that have no advantage of benefiting you of anything, of just grabbing a group of individuals and bringing them to the top. And if you say, what would I change? it's probably more personal from the work side. I'd go back and I'd probably say a little bit more quality of life. You know, starting a company from ground zero when you've got another player in the market that is what I would call Megatron. And you're just a guy that, you know, with an uncle that's just starting a little mom and pop, 1 or 2 properties. And before you know it, you know, I mean, 900 properties later, that it just, it's a tough journey. You know, I mean, sometimes you wake up, sometimes you're, you know, probably the first 5 years, I'd say 6 out of 7 nights, it'd be 3 o'clock in the morning, going to bed every night, just trying to find ways to make it work. Failure and quitting is not in my bloodline, no matter how hard it gets. And, you know, but, you know, going back to that question, I would just say to have a little bit more work-life balance and enjoy moments, you know, and being present, especially when you're raising a family, and the kids are involved. There's only a certain period of time that them 4 kids are going to want daddy to be around, and I still make them call me daddy instead of dad, because I don't want to let that go yet. But being present when you need to be present, and when you are present, truly being present, I would say if I could go back and change a little bit, you know, I would put down that work phone, put down the computer, and embrace that first baseball game. Embrace those moments that they're looking in the stands to make sure dad's watching, or the cheerleading matches or the football games, and just, you know, taking time to enjoy that, because there's going to become a time that your body's not going to allow you to do it. Your health's not going to allow you to do it. And the people that you want to do it with might not be in a situation to enjoy those moments with. So I probably went more on the personal aspect and probably a career aspect on it, but that would be my response to that.
Absolutely. I love it. I probably needed to hear that today, because we're in a society that puts a lot of gloat and success on the hustle culture and the grind culture. And there's just so much more to it than that. And success is not just measured by sleepless nights and saying I did it. It's measured by other things as well. So I appreciate you giving that response. Catherine, this is also for you. If there's anything that you could go back and change, what would it be and why?
Well, I very quickly retorted and joked when we were talking about this in our prep call the other day that I would have come to the supplier side sooner. So cover your ears, Vanessa. Sorry. But the reason for that is a lot along the lines of what Justin just touched on. So I think it's true in any career path that a lot of times you're making very strategic choices when you're changing roles and taking promotions and things like that. But you also kind of have a tendency to climb the ladder and look up and not look around and say, hey, what am I doing here? Am I happy? Am I taking care of myself? And I think there was a lot of personal carnage in my life because of that. There was a lot of lack of work-life balance and just throwing myself into every opportunity and not saying, is this really serving me? Am I taking time for myself and for my family and my friends, and really enjoying everything that I'm doing because I should be and I can do that. And so my transition to the supplier side really came at a time where there was just a lot going on in my life personally. And so it was a big shift for me, and honestly, complete life change, where I moved from a very stressed out situation to a place where I could shut my laptop at 5 o'clock and I wasn't worried about, you know, a fire or a flood or anything crazy happening after hours, or having to be on call, or, you know, at the time as well, this person getting COVID and who they exposed and all of these crazy things. It was, you know, really just a shift in, okay, I can go to a yoga class at 6 p.m. I can feel like I can check out, and if I get an email after hours, it's okay if I'm responding to a client at, you know, 8:30 in the morning, because I have boundaries now. And so I wish I had learned boundaries a lot earlier in my life and my career, to be honest.
Boundaries for sure. You'd be surprised how many people just either don't know that they can set them or just don't have them in general.
Absolutely.
But boundaries are so necessary. Maurice, go ahead and tail off that.
So I will say for me, my health really changed my total mindset of thinking, because there have been times, even on site, where, like you said, Catherine, you would be thinking about, okay, there's, when there's a fire, or there's a flood, or there's something, you have to get up and go, right? You're the property manager, so you're responsible. You're always dealing with somebody else's issue. You're always dealing with, a regional, because the regional is dealing with the owners. So the owners are down their throat. So that means that you are responsible for making sure that things are in order. And so you're working until 10 o'clock at night. You got your laptop open, dinner hasn't even been eaten yet. Your family is sitting here trying to figure out why I haven't seen you all day. And your friends don't know where you're at, and your family doesn't know where you're at. And then you turn around and you get sick. Boom. What happens, right? You can't work as hard as you did when you were well. I tell people all the time, you have to take care of yourself, because if you don't, you are no good to anyone being sick. And so my mindset has changed to where what I do is I make sure that I do as much as I can, when I can, and how I can, right? And let the other stuff go out the window. Because at the end of the day, when you're gone, that company, no matter how much they value you, they're going to need to replace you with someone in that position, right? So they're going to mourn probably for a little bit, but guess what? That next week, your job is going to be on Indeed, because they have to fill that position, because the show must go on. That doesn't mean that you're not valued. It just means that you have to understand that you are the only person that can take care of you. No one else can take care of you but you. So you have to have the mindset of, hey, listen, I have to take care of my health, I have to take care of my mental, and I have to make sure that I am doing the best for what I need to do for me. Now, if that means that you have a company or a boss that doesn't understand that, then that's not the right company for you. Because at the end of the day, you need to make sure that your sanity is intact, because you have to give your best foot forward when you're stepping out there and representing not only the company, but most importantly, yourself.
Well, that's a mic drop if there ever was one. So thank you so much for sharing that. I feel like it seems like quite a few people probably need to hear that. Justin, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to, for everybody on the call that doesn't know Maurice, I'm going to let you know this guy right here is a walking, living testimony of a second chance of life right now. And I mean, if anybody would know his testimony and his story of where he's been, where he's at, and where he is going, you'd probably wake up tomorrow morning pretty excited to get out of bed, and pretty excited of the opportunities that you have tomorrow, if it's with personal work. But Maurice, God's got you a second chance out there for a reason, man. It's going to be pretty exciting to see what it entails. So,
yes, thank you. I'm excited about the things that are happening. I will touch on it just a little bit, but for everyone on the call, I just want you to know this. Resilience is something that you grow into. You don't usually get it by birth. You don't usually get it because you're special. You get it because you have gone through things. And right now, I'm dealing with some kidney issues, and dealing with, waiting for a kidney to come or have a living donor. And I smile through it. I work through it. There's days where I put a picture up a couple of weeks ago. I was sitting in my chair at home working and getting an infusion. And, I work and have 30 people under me, right? And so I'm responsible for making sure that every single day things are done. So people don't realize. I mean, I'll be in the hospital, and my family like, "What are you doing?" My laptop is on my lap, and I'm in the hospital. Going here and doing there, and they're like, "You are just won't stop." I said, "Well, see, if I stop, what's going to happen is my mindset is going to start thinking about what I'm going through, and then it's going to start to spiral." So I got to keep on going. I got to keep on moving. And I realized that one day this is going to be over. So I got to continue to get that strength up every single day. Now, every day isn't the same. Every day, sometimes there's days where I just feel like, ugh, I just need a moment, right? And those are the times where I just stop, I go lay down, and then I get back up and I keep on going. And people don't realize that. I'm definitely grateful to God for what He has given me. So I keep on saying to everyone, and I'm going to say to you guys, be resilient in all your pursuits, your health, your family, your career, anything that you want to do it now. Because if you don't do it now, tomorrow is never promised. So every day you wake up, make those goals and make sure that you check them goals off and then be happy about those goals. If it's you trying to eat right, and you mess up one day, but you've eaten right for, 5 hours of the 8 hours that you're at work, celebrate that. Celebrate every single little win that you can do, because at the end of the day, those wins will add up to those big wins. And so when those days come where you feel like, hey, I'm depleted or I'm defeated, you go back to those days that you were victorious, and you can grab on that and continue to move forward.
I just want to say there's quite a few comments coming through the chat, and I think I can probably speak on behalf of everyone when I say thank you. I think so many people needed to hear that today, and I'm trying not to get emotional with it, but like, to feel your energy and to see your smile, and to know you're going through all of that and you are still as present and engaged and energetic and just with a smile on your face. Like,
Yeah.
thank you so much.
Maurice, let's see that smile again for the people in the back. There it is.
And it's all because of the glory of God. That's all I can say. He gets all the glory, and He is the one that is keeping me. He has His hands on me. So sure. I give Him all the glory. I am not ashamed to give Him all the glory, because if it was not for Him waking me up every single morning and me being able to say thank you to Him, and putting on, my clothes and having the activity of my limbs and the mindset of being able to continue to have mobility, I would not be able to be here. There's many people that are dealing with what I'm dealing with right now that don't have that strength, right? And so I'm grateful to God. So I'm going to stop and we're going to continue.
Well, we are equally as grateful for you. If y'all don't have a Maurice in your life, you need to go find one.
I'm here.
We're loving everything we're feeling right now.
I got enough love for everybody.
All right, Jay Lopman, you are up, sir. My question for you is, it's actually a two-part question. So I'll let you get your first response out and then we'll dive into the next one. But what advice do you have for those that are just starting out in the industry, more specifically supplier partnerships?
Well, first and foremost, two things. One, Maurice, you're amazing. Thank you for that. And second, next time I'm not going after Maurice, because what can I say that's going to be any more inspirational or as great as that? So thank you.
I was glad it wasn't me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good luck,
well,
Jay.
Thank you. Appreciate that. I'm going to need it. As for advice, in all seriousness, I would start with saying, be curious. Ask questions, and ask a lot of questions to seek understanding. And with that, you will become a knowledge resource, not only for your company and the product or service, but for many other things within the industry. And with that information, you can always position your product or service as a solution to your clients' problems. Sometimes they don't even know that they have the problem, but if you can ask the questions and you can understand the situation, you can position your product or service as a solution, which will allow you to become a trusted resource. And I'm going to talk more about that trusted resource later, but understanding the markets is another thing that's very important. What's going on locally, what's going on nationally that could impact your client. If you educate yourself regarding things such as legislative issues, it can also help you become that trusted resource, because those are the things that they're focused on. And if you as a supplier partner can help bring light to those or have a solution potentially, again, you position yourself. The other thing would be understanding your competition. And I don't say that in like an adversarial way, but more of understanding of what they do and how they do it. Not only your direct competition, but other suppliers. And speaking of competition, it is okay And I would suggest building relationships with other suppliers, not just your competition, but other supplier partners. Because as and I'm sure many of you have experienced this, or you will experience it, you're going to go call on a client and they're not going to have time to meet with you because their landscaper called out sick and they have an owner visit and they need to clean up the property and they're scrambling. Well, if you had built a relationship with a supplier partner that does landscaping, you could bring a solution to them, right? You could have somebody there and available. And again, you build that trust and everybody wins. So that would be the other thing. And the other, I would say this, I teach supplier success for the CAS designation, and we talk about operating with the highest level of integrity. As we all know, the old adage, this is a small world. Well, this is an even smaller industry. Everybody knows each other. Everybody talks. So be open, be honest, do what you say you're going to do. And in that vein, pull people forward, right? When you're in an event, introduce people to other people, pull people forward. Justin talked a little bit about that, and so did Catherine. And then the overarching thing I would say is get involved and stay involved and be present when you're at those meetings and those events. People do business with who they know, who they like, and who they trust. And in order to accomplish that, you need to get involved. You need to be present. That could be industry opportunities, whether it's at your local affiliate or a state affiliate or even nationally. People will see you dedicating your time and your efforts to the industry. And through that process, they'll get to know you. Hopefully in that process, they'll get to like you. And then once you have built those relationships and following through on your commitments, they will trust you. But I will say this process takes time. So dedicate yourself to the process, dedicate your time, be patient with yourself. And if you follow those steps, I have found personally, and I hope you will as well, and others have as well, that it will be successful.
For sure. Jay's over here dropping nuggets, so I hope you all are taking notes off of this. But second part of that question is, are there resources or things you would recommend someone do to help find their niche in the rental housing industry as a supplier?
Well, I think I touched on a little bit of it jokingly in my introduction, but also through the previous is just getting involved, right? The more you get involved, the more you're seeing, the more information you are exposed to, the better off you will be. Join a committee, join a task force. All of the local affiliates and state affiliates, it's all volunteer leadership, and they need fresh perspectives and fresh ideas and people to dedicate their time. So offer your time and experience. Learn from other supplier partners. I mean, we've got a great networking group that you can learn from every aspect. Learn other suppliers' industries, what they do, how they do it. I touched on it earlier. You may be able to leverage that for your client's benefit and for your benefit. I think educating yourself on legislative issues. You talk about rent control. You talk about tenant protection ordinances. You talk about all of these things that impact our client partners. The more you know about that, the more that you can speak their language, and you can really kind of sit on the same side of the table looking out at the world together. And then just as a plug for the NAAEI is to go in and register and take one of the designation programs. For the supplier community, it's the Certified Apartment Supplier Designation, or the CAS designation. So that's another thing that you can do that shows your dedication to the industry and you can gain knowledge from. So those would be some of the resources that I would throw out there.
Awesome. Do any of our other panelists have resources that they want to share?
I just would say get yourself a mentor. Kind of piggybacking off of what Jay said, I had written down pretty much the same thing about the local and state, associations. Just be involved. Our industry is small, but it's large, right? And we're very welcoming. So flood these association events with your presence and just make yourself known, because you'll only understand and be able to have your voice heard when you're sitting at the table and you're in the room. You can't expect to get anywhere if you're not there, right? And so that's how I think a lot of us got to where we're at, because we showed up, right? We showed up to everything that our associations had. We showed up to, the state, the national, all those things, because we understood how to network. We understood that, listen, I can glean off of this person over here. I didn't know Jay that well. We didn't work together at BG, but I think I was leaving out when he was coming in, if I'm not mistaken. But I do know that I've seen him around. We've spoken a few times, during some things. So, I admire, a lot of the things that he has done. Justin and I have known each other for a long time. And I totally admire him. He's always the same. We're always the same with each other, and when we see each other, it's all love. Our industry is one big happy family. I will say that. Once you understand the relationships that we have with each other, it's like a party when you get together, right? It's an amazing feeling to know that you have someone has your back. I'm going to tell the story really, really quick. We were at FAA, and I was leaving out, and Justin said, "Come here, we got to pray before we leave, right? Before you leave." That touched me because you don't understand that people watch you, and they don't, sometimes you don't know that they're watching you. And so for him to acknowledge that, and to want to even, just pray, was an amazing feeling. Or someone reaching out to you like Betsy and say, "Hey, I'm thinking of you," or, those things go a long way. So get yourself a mentor, engulf yourself in the association, take classes like Jay said. There's some free classes that some associations, they offer. So take as many as you can. Education is very important in our industry. So just learn, glean, 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 and you'll be fine.
And
Well, I
Vanessa,
think
I'll chime in real
oh,
quick.
go ahead, Justin.
No, go ahead, Catherine.
Oh, I was just going to say, building on that, connect yourself with people who are going to speak well about you in rooms that you're not sitting in. So, people assume everything you say is going to be repeated, and people will remember what you say about other people. But people will also listen to what other people say about you. So, with the mentorship and just seeking out those connections, making sure that you're connecting yourself with people who are really going to advocate for you early in your career. I think I was very fortunate to have a lot of those folks who kind of held my hand and said, "Hey, join this committee, and I'm going to introduce you to people at association events. And oh, this is your first apartmentalize. I'm going to make sure you know all of these people from other parts of the country." And just really making sure that you're building your network, because again, big but small. I was in Kansas City last week talking to someone who's in Minneapolis about East Coast connections in markets that neither of us have ever worked in. But we had mutual connections in Boston and New York and Atlanta and Raleigh, and it just it's a very small world. So your reputation precedes you, and we have all seen some folks newer on the supplier side who just don't understand that. They don't get the connection of multifamily. And we are here to advocate for each other, and we are here to support each other. And whether you are working for competitors, or you're just a supplier who's totally unrelated to another supplier's company, that doesn't mean that you can't advocate for each other and get each other in front of clients and really have that connection. Go ahead, Justin.
It's a huge, kind of like what Betsy just said, right? It's a huge industry, but it's a small network. And this day and time, things are changing. I mean, things are changing where people want to work with people instead of maybe corporate America. And with that said, positivity's got to come with it. I mean, people want to be surrounded by positivity people, because and I'll say it, there's enough Debbie Downers out there. And I tell my team all the time, hey, no time for negative Nancy's. And they're like, "No, we're a bunch of reality Rachels, so you better get it right, Justin." So, but with that said, Maurice and Jay, they just talked about a mentor. We use a little bit different terminology. Me personally, I say, find yourself a celebration partner. Find the person that's going to be just as excited hearing good news or celebration points, or people that take a moment, shut the business door, pull you off to the side and said, "Hey, let's go celebrate a moment." And I've had somebody do that to me a couple of times. They're like, "Hey, let's grab dinner and say, hey, how's things going? They're like, we're celebrating tonight. What are we celebrating? And we're like, you've got a lot of great things that have happened recently. We're going to slow life down a little bit to appreciate them, because you're going so fast. You don't slow down enough to realize maybe what you've done, what the team's done, or what that man upstairs has given you. And when you can have a celebration partners, and I'll say plural, and if anybody needs one, write down my email, write down my phone number. You want to be happy, you want to be excited, you want to celebrate, call me, because I'm not going to be the person like they're bragging again. Oh, here they go on their soapbox. Hey, if you got positivity and you want to share it, let's celebrate. Let's do it, because you need those people in your life that want it more for you than themselves. So therefore, again, they're bringing people along with them. So.
And if you're like me and not a morning person, call Justin, because he brings the energy.
I love it. All right. Well, we will actually, Catherine, you're up here. So I'm going to go ahead and plug you with the first part of this question. But what do you look for in a company that would help you progress in your career? So kind of some of the things that go along with that, or what questions should you be asking and what connections should you be making?
Sure. I mean, I think I was joking earlier that I'm the personality hire for this panel because I'm just a baby supplier. I've only been here for 3 years on this side. But I have obviously been in the industry for quite some time and seen a lot of folks make choices that I kind of looked and was like, that's interesting. But I think choose wisely. You know, it is your career path, and I understand, you know, the need to have a job. It's important. And so I think sometimes people do need to make quick decisions, but making sure it's a good fit for you and that you're working with folks that you respect and that trust you and will empower you to grow and make your decisions. But also when you're making those choices, asking for advice and using your network and your connections and making sure you fully understand the reputation that that company has both in the market and nationally, if it's a national company, because it's a small world. And while you might be respected, if you're moving to a company that has had a lot of challenges in the market and you're not aware of it, you're facing a wall that you didn't know that you were going up against when you moved into your role. So it's hard enough to transition and to start a new role. Really asking those questions and understanding the full package of what you're getting yourself into, I think is, as this little baby supplier will say, the best thing to do.
All right. Well, Jay, I would love for you to answer that question as well. You've had a very long and successful, not very long. I don't mean to age you. You've had a very successful tenure in this space. So what would you look for in a company to help you progress?
I think Catherine's very, very right in her comments. I would expand on that, and just if, as you're talking to or thinking about potential companies to go to work for, is we talked about the growth and wanting to, what are their commitments to your growth? You know, do they have opportunities for you to continue to learn? Do they have opportunities for you to take additional classes or to be involved in the industry? Can they commit to allowing you to attend industry events or taking that time for that volunteer leadership and spending, you know, as they say, to get you in the door? Oh, it's just an hour a month to serve on a committee. And of course, we all know it's a lot more than that, but it's well worthwhile. Don't get me wrong. But does the company commit to allowing you to do that outside of your roles and responsibilities in whatever position? So I think having the ability to ask those questions, to have that understanding going into it, if that's a pathway you want to take, that you have the support from your current or future employer to allow you to continue on that growth trajectory.
Absolutely. So we've got some Q&A starting to roll in, and please keep those questions coming. If there's anything you want to ask to any of the panelists or any of the panelists in specific, please feel free to drop those in the Q&A. But Maurice, there is a question. How do you recommend getting contact information in order to network with someone in the future and maybe carve out some time to share best practices?
Well, I would say pretty much just going to the events and, networking and trying to link up with those that are already doing what you're trying to do. Um, as well as making sure that you are intentional about when you're showing up what the goal is, right? A lot of times, we go in blind, right? A lot of times when you're new to something, you don't know what to expect. So you have to go in with a plan. You have to go in and you have to go in and say, hey, listen, I'm going to, try to speak with, 4 people. I want to try to speak with 5 people, whatever the case may be, and stick to that plan. Now, whether you go over that or under that, still celebrate those things that you were able to get while you're there. I think that making sure that you're intentional about um, doing the work and being able to get to those people that you want to speak with, because everybody's not going to be able to be available for you, right? It's just like us on the supplier side. We pound the pavement because we want to speak to a certain person, and sometimes they're just not available. Do we stop? Absolutely not. Because if we stop, guess what? We're never going to get to. We're never going to get to them. We have to find a way, to get them, not so much corner them so that they're bothered, because there's a difference between being a nuisance and being persistent, right? There's a difference, and you never want to be a nuisance to someone, because that really, really makes them turned off. And we don't want to turn them off. We want them to see our charm. We want them to understand that, hey, we're just really trying to give you a product that we know can assist you down the line. And that relationship is something that is very important. I always say, make sure that you are a relationship building person when it comes to this business. Ask questions, ask, how their family is doing. Ask them if they have any dogs, ask them the dogs' names, write that stuff down, because the next time you see them, you want to ask about them. I'm going to tell a little small story really quick. So some years ago, when I first started doing this Supplier, there was a young lady who won a gift card for our trade show. So I went to her property. She won a $200 gift card. Gave her the gift card. She was like, "Oh my God, this is so great. My mom is sick in New York. I was going to New York to go see her. This is going to help a lot." I was like, "This is great." We took a picture, blah, blah, blah. 6 months later, I went back to the property just to check on them and see if they needed anything or whatever. And I walked in. She was there. I said, "Hey, so and so, how's your mom doing?" And she said, "Oh my God, you remember that?" I was like, "Absolutely." I was like, "How is she doing?" Much better. She was like, "She's doing so much better." And I thank you. That client, to this day, any property or any company that I went to has followed me, because they remembered how I made them feel when I remembered that there was a little small information that they gave me. And I remembered that. Not because I was trying to, get the business. It was just because I was concerned, right? And like Jay said in the beginning, people will buy from you when they trust you only. They're not going to buy from you if they think you're shisty, if they think that you're shady. They will never come your way. So you have to make sure that you are integral and that you're sincere anytime you step in someone's face, someone's presence, someone's property, or you're trying to get their attention. Be integral at every part of your journey.
100%. So we have a couple more questions, and I definitely want to make sure that we can answer as many as possible. So this one's really open to anyone because we're all in several different locations. What are some specific events that you would recommend attending? I would all imagine we probably have a trade show. So if there's any other specific events for your area, I would love for you to share those.
Yeah, Vanessa, I'll speak up. I would say anything that your company is willing to invest in you to allow you to go. And especially anybody that's on the call that's at the beginning stages. And what I mean by beginning stages, first 5 years of multifamily, anything that you can get support and the investment back into you. And it can be from a state show, it can be from your local association show. It can be AOD. Look, Betsy's already putting the stuff out. We need to put her on that 6 box on here real quick. But you know, apartmentalize. And I'll say one of my favorite 2 events is AOD, because legislative holds a little spot in my heart, because legislation that we had to pass in Florida a few years ago to protect our company and validate the multifamily aspect for the state of Florida. But you know, AOD and I advocate, and then I would say AOD that's coming up in San Diego. That one right there is an event that you can put business kind of off to the side. Yes, we're there to take care of business, all the committees and everything, but that's an event from a national standpoint that people are so welcoming and arms wide open. And there was an event right about, I would say 8 years ago, that I attended at NAA, and it was AOD, where, you know, I had an individual that kind of stopped me from walking out, and I probably would not be in the NAA standpoint if it wasn't for that individual. And I definitely would not be on this call right now. So, but you know, those events that, you know, anything that you can try to get to that your company will support, do it now, because it's going to pay off 10 times fold down the road. And hey, it might not be right now, right? And it's not a race, it's a marathon, and it's the marathon of life. So that would just be my recommendations. But you know, from the national standpoint, AOD, apartmentalize, and then advocate, and you know, those places you can have genuine sit down conversations with people. And those are the times that you learn kind of the story that Maurice just shared. You know, you can learn about the family, you can learn about situations, you can learn about maybe a breaking point that somebody's at in their life right then, that you might be that piece of light that they need that day to keep on going. So
100%. Catherine, it looks like you maybe had something to chime in on there.
Yeah, I think that's a good point about AOD and advocate. I mean, NAA apartmentalize it's loud and it's flashy and it's crazy and we're all there, and it's great, and it's, you know, you really can meet a lot of people that you wouldn't normally meet because there is so much loud and crazy. But even with, you know, folks that I've known and I've, you know, connected in the career, a lot of times it's a quick like hug and I'll see you later, and then I never see you again. And it's I'm so glad to see you, but that's the only time you see them for the entire conference, because there's just so many people there. So, you know, my experience with AOD and advocate, I've been able to make a lot more kind of closer connections and have those longer term conversations, because it's just a little quieter, it's just a little more focused. You break off into smaller groups a little bit more. And that's kind of the same experience that I've had with my local organizations growing up in the industry, joining those committees early on and having those one-on-one conversations over coffee before your community meeting starts. And in Charlotte, I was part of the community service committee. I can't remember exactly what it's called. I know it's changed names. But I made some of my best industry connections serving on that committee, going and painting a homeless shelter on a Saturday morning, because we all really sucked at painting and we made a mess and we had to go clean it back up. But those were just really good connections to make. So even community service opportunities with your association, like Jay said earlier, you know, advocating for the things that are important to your clients. You know, this legislation is very important to them. And, you know, not just taking care of them from a customer service perspective, but also having an investment in their initiatives and their priorities, and just being curious and asking those questions and really making those genuine connections so they feel that you're authentically interested in their well-being and the well-being of their company, and not just from a perspective of I'm doing this and I'm getting involved and I'm engaging because I'm trying to get more business and earn more money and put more money in my pocket in commission.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you so much for answering that. Our last question of the day will be for Mr. Lopman. As a national supplier, what were the challenges you had to maneuver to scale? And how did you replicate your results everywhere that you're not?
Well, you know, when you're selling at a national level, it's difficult, right? The game board is bigger. Logistics is a challenge. And I think as as I had mentioned, and as some of the other panelists have mentioned, it's leading with integrity. It's being open, being honest, following up and following through. They say the devil's in the details, but the fortune's in the follow-up. And I think you have to be aware of the relationships, because there are, if you're selling at a national level, there are regional relationships. There are relationships that have been ingrained, and relationships, as I talk about, take time to build. I always say, think about your best friend, right? Did you walk up to that person and go, hey, we're going to be best friends, and then you were best friends forever? No, it took time. You went through challenges, you went through ups and downs, and you were in school together, you played sports together, whatever it is. So it's that patience and being able to keep going forward and finding those opportunities. Now, when you find those opportunities, you build on it. You're able to say, hey, look, you're a national company, Mr. and Mrs. Client. We were able to do some really good things in the Southeast. There's an opportunity in the Northeast. Can we have an opportunity to at least sit at the table and show you what we can do? Can we have that opportunity? And if not now, maybe at the next time it comes up. Because inevitably what's going to happen is their existing supplier is not going to have the bandwidth to be able to do it, or they can't do it that time, and that door is going to open for you. So being, being very persistent, but pleasantly persistent. You don't want to overdo it. And then that flywheel will start to build momentum, and you'll have more and more opportunities. So, and then what was the second part of the question?
I think you kind of answered it.
I did? Okay. I want to make
it everywhere you're not, but we'll see little mini J's run around here soon enough. You leave your mark on everyone. So,
it's not a chore when you get to give back and you get to pull people forward, and that's what it's really about.
For sure. Well, on behalf of the entire panel, I just want to thank everyone that's on this call that took the opportunity to sit in and share in these journeys and insight and knowledge from a group of phenomenal individuals that are our supplier partners. So thank you so much for the time, and I will turn it back over to Stephanie for a few announcements.
Thanks, Vanessa. And thanks to all of you for your time today and for sharing your stories. And I love that some of you didn't even really know each other before we did this, and I feel like some connections have been made. So that was really awesome to see. I think we lost Justin. I don't know where'd Justin go. Before we close, I do want to cover a few NAA updates. So you have until tomorrow to submit a nomination for Maintenance Legends for the September contest. We also have the Legend Leaderboard that's available now, where you can vote for your favorite story of the month. If you don't have time to get your entry together for the September prize, you can start submitting for the October prize package on October 1st, which is Sunday. And that prize package includes a trip for two to any sporting event of your choosing. So don't miss out on that. And we are currently calling all leaders. So we are accepting applications for Leadership Lyceum and the Diversity Leadership Program for the classes of 2024. You can check out this link for more information on these programs, and you have until November 17th to apply. There is no application fee involved to submit your application. And lastly, our third annual DE&I Awareness Week will be held on October 16th through the 23rd. You can check out the link on your screen for more information on the sessions that will be available that week, and you can register for one or for all. And that is everything we have today. Thank you all so much again for your time. Oh,
Before we finish, can we get a round of applause for Vanessa for facilitating this? She did
an awesome job. She did an awesome job.
Yes,
Thank you, Vanessa.
It's my pleasure. My pleasure. You all are amazing.
And to Betsy in the chat, putting in all the little.
Betsy,
and Vanessa, you ever want to go to the bright side, Vanessa, you let me know. So you just give me that first thing before you call it.
I feel like Betsy tries like once a month.
She's gonna get you if she can.
All right, you all. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.